We are standing in a house that I lost $45,000 on a wholesale deal. And I'm about to tell you how that happened. I am standing in the house right now that I lost $45,000 on a wholesale deal. So how am I standing in the house? Well, I actually did end up buying it and we flipped it and currently on the market right now. But as a wholesale, I lost $45,000 on it. And I'm going to tell you the story today and really outline the things that I've learned on what to do and what not to do so that I don't lose $45,000 again. All 5 things I'm going to outline, but you're going to have to stay to the end to hear number 5, because number 5 you are definitely not doing, and number 5 is going to be the secret to successfully wholesaling. All these things are going to help, but number 5 is the one. The first thing that you have to have when you're wholesaling is you want a good sales process. And I don't mean you have to have all the KPIs in place and this, that, and the other, but what I mean by a sales process is a script, right? So what script am I going to use? When I first started wholesaling, the very first thing that I did was I went out and I looked for someone who could share a script with me. And I just followed that script each and every single time that I talked to a seller. So if you're trying to wing it, it's never going to work. You really need to follow a script, and it's going to help you know what to say and learn along the way while you're taking action. So that's a very important one, but it's not as important as number 2. So why I say that number 1 isn't quite as important as number 2 goes into this story. So I've always had a sales process, or what I like to call a sales script. But one thing that I was not very good at was identifying roadblocks. So in this story, we obviously were up against several other people making offers on this property, talking to the seller. I mean, that's the name of the game with wholesaling. But we ended up winning the deal, I like to say, winning, or we were the ones that put it under contract. And when we went to go and put it under contract, little did we know that the seller had a husband that also needed to sign the paperwork, and we had no idea. So number 2 is identifying roadblocks. Roadblocks can come in many forms, but you're going to need to know who the signer is, because when we went to go get the signatures, we didn't realize that we had a whole other person that we had to negotiate with. And we were up against another wholesaler, and guess who knew that we had a whole nother person to negotiate with? This other wholesaler. And so they were negotiating with both while we were only negotiating with one. So identifying each and every roadblock is super important. And a really good question to ask is, who's going to get mad if you go under contract on this property with me? Because that could be just about anybody. And so you always, always, always want to identify your roadblocks. Now, the third thing, which I like to call the backbone of every single sales call, it is the thing that you always need to do. Number 3, find the motivation. We need to dig in. We need to find out why the seller is wanting to sell. Because as a wholesale deal, you're buying at a discounted rate, so there has to be a need there. There has to be a reason why they're selling it, and we need to find out why so that we can do the number 4, which is come up with solution. So let me tell you a little bit about how that worked in this deal. Well, first of all, we weren't really good at identifying the motivation. We knew that the house was a total mess, but what we didn't know is that this couple was actually getting a divorce because the husband was a hoarder and that there was trash from floor to ceiling. I'll definitely put some pictures up here for you to see, some before and afters. But we didn't know any of this, and they were actually embarrassed to let anybody in the house. So after we got it under contract, they wouldn't let us in. But do you know who they would let in? The other wholesaler who had dug into the motivation way more than we had. So this wholesaler, he knew that there was a divorce. He also knew that they needed a place to live. That's something that we didn't know. So this is all digging into motivation that we did not do a good job. And so there was no way for us to provide any type of solution for this seller, which is number 4. And that's exactly what this other wholesaler did. And so even though we had it under contract, this other wholesaler was able to help them find a place to live. So they actually went under contract with him too. And I'll tell you the rest of the story, so you got to stay tuned. Okay, so before we get to the end of the story, let's go over number 5, which in my opinion is one of the easiest things to do and a key to wholesaling that you can unlock. That 5th thing is setting expectations. I know, it sounds crazy, but with every single move that we make on a phone call or in person with the seller, we are constantly setting expectations. Even in the beginning of the call, we are setting expectations about what it looks like to work with us and taking the pressure off that, hey, we don't have to make a sale today, right? We just want to give it our best shot to find a solution for you. So this is a very, very simple thing to do. And what you'll notice is that when you start setting expectations from the very beginning of the call all the way through the end, that little by little the seller will start to trust you. And that is the key. And the only way to do it is by setting expectations. And little examples of this would be, even in this story, we didn't set the expectation with the seller that, hey, we're gonna have to come and get into the house. And that was a big roadblock for us. The other wholesaler got in the house, probably because he set that expectation. I need to see it, and I'm gonna be in there 3 or 4 times until we sell it. These are the things that sellers need to know in order to trust you so that there are no surprises. So now I'm gonna get into the rest of the story on how I actually lost the $45,000, because I already said that it was under contract. However, I had done something, and I do this with every one of my contracts. After I have it signed, I go to the county and I file a notice of interest that shows I have a signed contract, we have open title, and I have notice of interest in this property. So when they went under contract with the other wholesaler, their title company contacted me and said, hey, we see you have this contract. What are you going to do? Because I get first dibs. Well, because I want to work with people, I actually had that other wholesaler call me and say, would you honor your price point on that contract? And I said, of course. And so the other wholesaler wholesaled it to me. And when I got the closing statement, guess how much that wholesaler got that property under contract for? $45,000 less than me. Pretty crazy what people will do to have you help them solve their problems. As you can see, these types of transactions are very intensified, right? They have a lot of problems. There's a lot of ins and outs that can go into them. And this is what my business does. We help people that have a problem and we find them solutions. Like in my story, this seller, they needed a place to live. They needed someone to help them clean out the house. And although I wasn't able to find them a solution at the time, someone else was. And I learned how I can better do that. And so if this is something you want to get involved in, this is what my team is doing. And we are getting better and better at this every day, which is why we know all the things not to do. And again, if you want to get involved with this, please contact me, reach out to my team. You can reach me through Instagram on a message. I will always reach back. My Instagram handle is @AprilNGiuliano. And so if you have a property that you're looking to sell, or maybe you want someone to talk to your seller, we can do that. Or if you want to get involved in my business with lending, we are buying a lot of these properties and flipping them just like this house. My Instagram is AprilNGiuliano, and Giuliano's with a J. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, maybe share this video with someone who could use it, and we'll see you next time.